When I landed in Sydney, I never wanted to do sales. I was such an introvert person. I had no choice.
You had to put yourself out there.
I felt like I was thrown out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I had to go and network with people. That kind of also led my interest towards building something unique. The less salesy you are, the better you will be at winning your customers.
Hi everybody, welcome back to CREWcasts. I'm Ruchi, your host. Today we have the startup founder of LIVEHAUS and Impact Circle with us today. Welcome, Saurabh Kora. How are you, Saurabh?
I'm doing absolutely fine. How are you?
Good, thanks. Would you like to introduce yourself and give our audience a little bit of a background about your startup?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very new venture at the moment. So you've just started LIVEHAUS like 3 weeks ago. It's more of a event services sort of a thing where we are trying to host events in B2B space, mostly with the sales community and HR community in Sydney to start off with, and then possibly take it to other parts of Australia as well, and probably involve like more set of communities there involving tech or marketing, other than sales and HR as well. So I think it's more of an events community which we're trying to build, because we want to make events more memorable, energetic, and more youthful. As we can all understand that whenever we go to B2B events, they're usually pretty boring or they're pretty intense and transactional. So I think with LIVEHAUS, I want to change that and do things in a very unorthodox, unconventional way, so people actually remember it for something which they haven't seen before and they want to come back to it again.
You say that the best ideas don't happen behind screens. Can you share a moment where being in the room really changed the game for you and for someone else in your community?
Every time I've been in a room where I've met people, there are always some sort of interesting conversations and breakthroughs happening. So with my other project that we are doing called Impact Circle, we do a lot of in-person roundtables and town halls with the startup community. And I've seen in real life how people meet over a round table and they start sharing ideas with each other. Like we hosted a round table back in June where we did a marketing round table and AI round table. People just met on the round table. They had good conversations. Some of them then referred each other for different sort of projects. And I think that's the benefit of an in-person setting where you're kind of throwing ideas at each other, but then also making those connections in a very genuine way rather than sitting behind the screens. A lot of the time you don't really understand the emotions and reactions of a person when you are sitting on his
I reckon when you're face to face, it's the body language that speaks, it's the tone, it's the in-person interaction that really builds that strong connection between you two.
Yeah, that's the whole point of, organizing more in-person events. Sydney is now picking up on that quite a lot through a lot of community things happening in Sydney. Like, we've got Ripple Social doing some exciting things. We've got Maple, they're doing some exciting things. Impact Circle, something which I and another friend of mine, we started a couple of months ago in the startup space. I'm a big fan of doing in-person things rather than doing things behind the screen, because it's always unique and different and you can know everything about the person, looking into their profile and looking into them through a screen.
So what sparked the idea for Impact Circle?
Oh, very random actually. I met my co-founder at Impact Circle, Sid, at a coffee. He had joined another company, so we just went for a coffee and went for a walk.
An in-person interaction?
In-person interaction, and I think we sparked on one thing, that Sydney definitely lacks a community of ambitious people, where people who are at the same level can come together through some sort of common events, be it a run or a round table or a town hall. So we thought of creating our own community where we can just bring curated set of people for a run or for a round table talking about a specific topic, and also maybe do like a large town hall where we can have everyone from the startup space or people who are founders, creatives, builders, doing exciting things like running their own podcast like we're here.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Writing a newsletter or running their own startup idea. Just bring them together in the same room and let the magic happen.
Right.
And all of a sudden I feel like whenever people who are ambitious, you bring them in the same room, magic happens automatically, because everyone is at the same level. Everyone is ambitious, they're creative, they're idea driven. So they're going to throw off ideas at each other, and those ideas can give you new ideas on how to do things. Like for example, somebody might be a founder stuck on their website. So they might get an idea on their website from someone else who has already solved the problem. Similarly, somebody has solved a problem on marketing or newsletters. And there can be another person who wants to understand more on the newsletter part. Right? So you can always get those ideas.
Yeah.
But you'll only get it when there's a curated room of people who are at the same level.
Essentially, what you do is you connect people that have similar goals in terms of business, startup, and everything surrounding that space.
Yeah, primarily targeting early stage founders, builders, anyone who is a creative, just bringing them together through similar sort of discussions in a roundtable format, in a town hall, or maybe just do like a well-being sort of thing. If you talk to a lot of startup founders in Sydney, they would tell you that we want to go to San Francisco or we want to go to other areas because we don't find a similar sort of energy and vibe. So through Impact Circle, I think we wanted to cut that gap and make Sydney a vibrant place, because Sydney has got everything. Sydney has got beautiful geography, located right next to the beaches. So many well-being activities people are already doing in their own silos. If they can do it in their own silos, why can't they do it with the community? But then bring that community in a way that it becomes curated and targeted.
Oh, definitely. Great answer. LIVEHAUS is built on storytelling. What's one story that you've seen, maybe from a brand, a founder, or an event, that completely shifted how people saw them and their perspective in terms of community?
As I said, look, I think I have seen several stories and I've met several people through Impact Circle, especially founders who are very creative in their own way. Naming one or two of them would be injustice, but I definitely get inspired by people who are doing very unconventional sort of things. If Nicole is listening to this, she's gonna be happy. Nicole from Ripple Social, she's running a community in Sydney. She started this community to bring people in Sydney together through different social events, which was very creative because I used to do my own walks for 2.5 years. I used to run this walking group every Sunday afternoon to bring like people in Sydney together for different sort of walks, catering this problem of loneliness, which is very...
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is very under the cover. Sydney, nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
But I feel it's a massive problem, which communities like Ripple Social are solving. They have formed their own group, own application now where you can host the events. Anybody can host any sort of events and people can actually mark going there.
Yeah, coming back to the walking thing, I feel like it's become very common now in Sydney, especially. There's so many run clubs. If you look at like the 5 a.m. Bondi Run Club, there's so many founders events where people are like planning events and planning walks and runs and gatherings where people can connect of a similar mindset. So I feel like it's definitely growing in Sydney as well.
Especially after these sort of events like South by Southwest happening in Sydney and a lot of tech startups now coming to Sydney and Melbourne. I feel there is this founder VC culture building up where they want to just not have formal conversations, but also have some sort of informal setup, be it a run or, go for a yoga session or play some sort of sports together, which is always good to do because that helps you to build a relationship with other founders and other people in the startup world.
It's definitely a more fun and unique way of networking as compared to like the traditional meet someone, what do you do, what do you not do? It's more exciting. It brings like I'm meeting new people. It's not the traditional, go there, talk to them sort of thing. It's like you're actually doing something that's out of the way, out of the path. So moving on to our third question, you started your journey into software as a service sales with no network here. So how did you turn those coffee chats into Impact Circle and what did you learn from that?
So first of all, when I landed in Sydney, I never wanted to do sales. If you had asked me on day one, I would have wanted to work in a consulting field at a large company like Deloitte or BCG or things like that. But when I landed here, I also came to know the realities of Australia as a person who is on student visa, that you can't really get into these large companies if you are not having full-time working right, if you're not a citizen or PR. So unfortunately, that door was closed for me very early. So that's why I started looking at startups to begin with. And I bumped into this founder at a networking event, and he was looking for somebody in his sales team in Australia to, just work with him on everything to do with sales, customer success, marketing. Had a quick telephonic call with him after that, met him for an in-person interview, and he hired me in his team. Great experience for me. I felt I got in love for startups from that experience only because I worked for a startup initially in Sydney, and that's how I kind of got fond of startup world as well. That kind of sowed the root for me in my journey towards startups. And then for coffee catch-ups, I feel once the COVID pandemic got over in 2021, I wanted to interact and build my own community in Sydney. So I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn, mostly connected to startup space, because I wanted to understand, people who have different sort of a mindset and how they think about life, and maybe I can learn something from them. So I met around 100 people in 2023 and 2024 over coffees, mostly from startup world and VC space in Sydney. And I interviewed a whole heap of people on the podcast as well. I used to run my own podcast back then. So interviewed some people on the podcast. I think that kind of also led my interest towards building something unique through Impact Circle this year towards the startup community in a more formal way and a more structured way, instead of just doing random coffees, and bring them together in the form of a community, rather than just doing it in a scattered way where I'm just meeting one-on-one.
Yeah,
I'm here bringing people together in the same room. That was the difference, I feel. But the roots for Impact Circle, I feel, go back to the time when I couldn't find a job at a large company and I was made to work at a startup. So I was made to experience the startup world.
Which really sparked your interest.
It really sparked my interest on, this is an interesting thing. I never thought of a startup like a big thing. Back then, I was like, what's it in? Like, they don't even have a name. Why should we work at a startup? But when you actually work at a startup, you get to experience like the reality of it, that you can build processes, you can learn a lot. And that's something which I always say to international students, immigrants, anyone who is in their early 20s, mid 20s, even late 20s, I would say, have like a startup experience to your profile, because you'll end up learning a lot of things in one role.
Definitely. I can speak for myself. Skidiv is a startup and I've had a great time working here. The amount of skills that I've learned from this role, I don't think I ever would have learned any of that from working at a big company. Speaking of founders, they spend a lot of time chasing ads, clicks, and impressions. From your experience, can events and community actually drive more real growth than traditional digital marketing?
Absolutely. Look, I think digital marketing has got its own benefit. Digital marketing works well because everyone these days is on technology. I've got access to my phone anytime. I can just scroll on Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere. But there will always be room for these in-person interactions where people want to come together. It's got its own benefit, and events can generate a lot of revenue if you are doing it in the right way, if you're bringing the right people to the room. Not random networking, but a curated networking done in the right way can definitely bring in sometimes more revenue. Like I've met people at networking events for my company that I used to work before, where I converted clients out of an in-person interaction, which was of way higher value than you would convert from a digital ad. I would not name that company, but we met when I was working at my previous role as an account executive at a company called Zensai. We went to a conference in Hunter Valley, which was an in-person interaction. We met that chief people's officer to sell an LMS at that event. They ended up buying it within 2 months of our first interaction with them. And that was a very big company with 3,000 employees. And that kind of helped me cover my budget for that quarter. Whereas when you're running the ads, a lot of the times you might have to spend a lot of money on ads to get few quality leads.
Yeah.
And those qualities, you haven't even met them.
Yeah.
Still trying to build that rapport.
Yeah. And the main thing with that is when you're posting a digital ad, you're targeting everyone, and your target market can never be everyone, right? So if you're posting on social media, there's a variety of people in social media, right? You can't be targeting all of them. So you really have to make sure you're targeting that specific slice of people that are in your niche. Yeah.
I think for that, you need to have a clear vision and understanding of your audience. That's where understanding of who is your ideal customer, where are they located, what are their interests.
Prototyping.
Have a clear prototype of them. That's what I'm doing with LiveHaus as well, because I want to ramp up events that we are doing. We want to bring in the right attendees to the room. So I'm looking into running some ads on Instagram and LinkedIn targeted at people who are in Sydney, specific job titles with specific interests.
Yep.
So even if I spend $200 on a LinkedIn ad or Instagram ad, I don't want to spend it in the wrong direction. I want to spend it I'm happy to spend even $500, but I want to make sure that I can utilize that to bring in the right people to the room.
Yeah, definitely. So Saurabh, what's the upcoming plan with LIVEHAUS and Impact Circle?
So with LiveHouse, we're just doing 2 events to, test out the waters in Sydney. One is an event called Sales House, which we are doing on the 10th of December. The other one is called People House, which we're doing on the 4th of December. So those 2 events are primarily for the sales community and HR community, just to bring them together in the same room, have like curated discussions. Yeah, just get the ball rolling in those 2 communities. If it goes well, then I want to do like more events in series every quarter with those 2 communities, and then maybe build like another community for marketing and tech as well. So in that way, we're able to kind of target the holistic 4 vertical angles in a company, which is sales, marketing, HR, and tech, and do it in like a weekly format. So every quarter, people kind of know about it, that we're doing these sort of events.
And where would you be marketing this? On social media?
Yeah, so we've got a plan around it. Just, do marketing on LinkedIn and Instagram through advertisements, but also meeting people in person and just getting some, established names into the events as a speaker or as a partner.
Yeah.
So we can get the word around initially, and then possibly look out for some sponsors as well that can sponsor the event for us.
Oh, that's very exciting.
And with Impact Circle, at the moment, it's very much community focused, but the aim is to make it more towards co-working or co-living sort of things with the startup community. So build like a hacker house, or even, anything to do with bringing founders and builders together in the same room where they can work and live together for a while during the year. That would be...
Oh, that's very unique. I haven't heard of that before.
There are some people doing that at the moment, but I feel like there is still a lack of those things happening, at least in Australia. And if we can be taking lead on that, that would be absolutely amazing. So I wanted to actually create like a co-working space or a co-living space, which can run in batches. Because I know like founders and builders often, they don't have money to invest in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if they are coming to a curated sort of a thing for a month, and which can be running in batches, people can register for those batches and you don't have to charge them a lot. And I'm sure we'll attract a lot of interesting people there. So I think that's the plan with that. For this quarter, we're just targeting few events. So we're doing a roundtable this Saturday on LinkedIn. We're doing another roundtable next month on AI in collaboration with Lorikeet, which is one of the top AI companies at the moment in Sydney. But we're also doing an Impact Circle end of year party to, commemorate everyone and everything that we have done as a part of Impact Circle during the year. So trying to bring the community, startup community, and just the community together for like an end of year party.
What's been one of the most awkward conversations you've had on a coffee meetup? Or like the funniest story, or like the most awkward moment that you've experienced?
Well, I think often I've met people on coffee when they, we are strangers.
Yeah.
I don't know them, they don't know me. And often at the end of the coffee, I would ask people to take a picture with me.
Yeah.
Most of the people would never say a no to me.
Yeah.
Because everyone loves taking snaps, but they can be, I can't remember one such moment, but yeah, there can be instances where people might not like taking a picture, which might become awkward in a way because you don't know that person that well.
Yeah.
It's always good to take that permission. I don't know if that was funny.
So it must have just been like, oh, do you mind we can take it? No. Sorry.
Yeah, so you kind of have to understand the first interaction, like that's fine. But I'm sure you must have seen my LinkedIn, like I posted about different coffees. So whenever I used to do coffees, I used to take a picture and share like a story of whatever we chatted about, anything fun, anything interesting.
LinkedIn's a great platform. That's where we connected with you, actually. We were looking for some startup founders in Sydney and we're like, oh, Saurabh, what is he doing? So we're like, you know what? I think it would be great to have him on the podcast and get to know more about his journey. What do you like to do in your free time when you're not thinking about business, startups?
Mostly I got into running this year, so I run a lot. So in my free time, I'm either running or, spending time with friends, going to the gym, or going for like a social activity. I love doing hikes, so would definitely be down for like hikes around the coast. That's why I was doing my own meetup group as well 2 years ago because I wanted to explore different parts of Sydney.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing like 90 plus walk.
Wow.
Kind of 2.5 years. And that community actually grew to 2,500 members.
Oh, wow.
Meetup app. And we had a WhatsApp group with 300 people who used to be very regular in coming to those walks. So very incredible story around that community as well, because it started off as a community, and then after 1 year, I remember we had walks where people started paying me $10 a walk without any caution, which is very amazing because I never started with an intention to earn any cent out of it. But then came a time when one of the attendees told me, like, why don't you charge? You're putting in a lot of effort and putting together the itinerary and organizing these walks, and you don't charge anything. So that's why I kind of started charging people. I asked them, like, what would you pay for? $5, $10, $20? And people started paying $10 for that. So yeah, in my free time, doing hikes, running, spending time with friends, or exploring different cafes and having extra hot large cappuccinos.
With strangers, of course.
With strangers.
With our final question for today, it's going to be some advice for our audience and especially aspiring founders. For somebody building their first startup right now, what's one way they can use connection, storytelling, or community as their marketing strategy?
So I think storytelling is one of the most critical skill that you can have. And if you mix it up with networking and personal branding. So I always talk about these 3 key pillars. If you can do networking on LinkedIn, outside LinkedIn, build your solid personal brand on LinkedIn, outside LinkedIn, and you're a good storyteller. So you can narrate the story of your brand in a compelling way that can gauge the audience, attention of the audience. You can definitely win more clients. You can convince more people as a founder. And you can bring in more attention to the different things that you're doing with your startup. But for doing that, you won't learn these skills, in one go. When I came to Sydney, I was such an introvert person, just sticking out with my family all the time back in India. But here when I came, I had no choice.
You had to put yourself out there.
I felt like I was thrown out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I had to go and network with people. So when I went for my first few networking events, it was highly embarrassing because you can make a lot of mistakes. But I think it's the difference in is how do you perceive those mistakes? Do you really look into those mistakes and try to improve on that? Or you just get bogged down by every embarrassment you face or every embarrassing situation you encounter? So I think there can be 2 ways to look into that. If you look at it in an optimistic way, try to improve on that.
Yeah.
Every interaction will keep on improving you. For me, it was ripple effect. I just kept on improving from there.
That's amazing.
Look at it in a positive way. I feel a lot of people make that mistake that once they face an embarrassing situation, they might get bogged down very easily. And they might not try to improve themselves after that first few interactions going wrong. First few interactions going wrong doesn't really define you because you're still trying to, be in that improvement journey. So once you start improving after a few interactions, you will then start learning the art of doing it in a better way.
Yeah. I don't really think there's a way you can go wrong though.
Yeah.
Like when you are interacting with someone, you're always constantly learning, right? And embarrassment is a thing that's very subjective. Like I can feel like something is embarrassing and the person in front of me is like, oh, they're talking amazing. So I feel like it's really about how you perceive it. And you also mentioned personal branding. I think that's a very, very critical point that you mentioned. And I'm very glad you mentioned that because I feel like personal branding is the most important thing in marketing. Out of everything, arguably the most important thing because it builds trust. It builds credibility with your audience, right?
Because people buy from people, right? I'm not going to buy from a company or a product. You are selling a product. Any buyer is talking to a seller.
Yeah.
So you are, as a salesperson, you are the face of the company. So if I don't trust you as a person, if you are not genuine and authentic in the way you are talking about your service or product, why would I buy your product? Why would I buy your service? And I think that's something which I learned as a salesperson. I used to be very salesy. Initially, when I started selling, I used to be very salesy as a traditional salesperson. You're trying to sell everything. But then I learned over a period of time that the less salesy you are, the less you talk about your product, more you focus on building relationship and understanding your customer and their cycle, the better you will be at winning your customers and increasing your closing rate.
Yeah.
Because if you come out as a person who is always trying to sell, or you're very transactional in every conversation, smart people will figure that out.
Yeah.
Within 2 minutes, they'll figure that out and they'll be like, look,
Oh, he's just trying to sell something.
he's just trying to sell something.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
But if you're authentic, if you are trying to build a rapport, people will understand that and they will appreciate that as well. And you're not trying to always sell, you're trying to do different sort of interactions. So you met somebody over a networking event, I always say, like, follow up with them after the event. Hey, did a thankful note and saying that, good to meet you yesterday, good to listen to you during the panel discussion, share some specific insights that you learned.
Yeah.
And then kind of period of time, talk about other things.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, good to meet you yesterday. Actually, I've got this product that I'm selling. Okay.
No.
There's no context.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of build some rapport and see if there's a match there. And if there's a match, then you can talk about things that you're selling.
Oh, that's a great tactic. Nice. I feel like it involves a lot of psychology as well. It's not just about selling, but it's about understanding human behavior and how people respond to certain things. If you're trying to sell something, it's between a buyer and a seller, right? So for example, if I'm going to the gym and I'm looking for a personal trainer, if my personal trainer is unfit, right? It's not going to build that credibility and that trust for me to want to, actually work with them and actually trust them with my body and say, I'm going to dedicate my time, my energy, my money, because I can see the result within you, sort of thing.
Well, you need to be a role model for others before they start trusting you.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a mentor as a salesperson or a tech person, you need to showcase in your profile that you've already been a salesperson for 10 years selling high value deals, and that's why now you're a mentor. And similarly for fitness, if you're a runner, you need to showcase that to others. Like, I've been into running now for 9 months. Before that, I was never into running. I got into running and I lost around 10 kgs in the last 9 months just because of running. And I've run like 1,300 plus kilometers this year.
Wow.
And I'm getting ready for my marathon, first ever marathon next week. So,
Oh,
I can talk
exciting.
about running because I have done that over the last 9 months, and I've gone through different sort of excuses that you can have as a runner. Like last year, if you had told me it's like too cold outside, I would have said, okay, let's not go out for running. But this year, I kind of stuck to those excuses. Like, if it's too cold, still go out. If it's too hot, still go out.
That's the difference between motivation and discipline, right?
Yeah.
Discipline is, I don't care about the excuses, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and you have to build that reputation as before you kind of start selling that concept to others, because people will trust if you have already done those things. I shared all these stories on LinkedIn. So, that's how I have built my own personal brand around running and sales and community building. So a lot of people automatically know about me as a person who is an effective community builder, who is a runner. And one of the examples I share with you is back in 2022 when I was having my graduation ceremony. My mom came from India and we were at the graduation ceremony. There were like 10 people randomly coming to me, like there were 10 students. They must have known me because I was elected in the postgraduate student council and I was on the academic board at UNSW, but I also used to run like a student podcast. So nobody knew me because of my degrees and all, but everyone knew me for the student podcast. They're like, I've heard one of your student podcast series, this episode that you used to run last year. Because I kind of built a brand for myself around that podcast.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of build your brand, where you are not reaching out to people to say, hey, I'm doing this. People are coming to you and telling you about, oh, I've heard you doing this great work. So in that way, you're kind of having an inbound attention rather than you trying to tell people all the time that you're doing this and you're doing that.
So
that's what I mean by personal brand, that automatically creates something for yourself around that space, that people are getting attracted to you rather than you trying to sell yourself to someone.
So in your words, the most effective form of marketing is personal branding.
And mix it up with networking and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people out there. One of my great friends, John knows about it as well. Shiv Bhardwaj. He is a public speaking coach for founders. That's exactly what he does. He helps founders to build public speaking skills, which is such an important skill to have, because if you can be an effective public speaker, combine that with your branding and networking, that's exactly what that's the perfect combination to nail your business initially. Because when you're running as a solo founder, people only know you. So if you can nail these three things,
you can build from there.
Effective in doing a lot of things right.
That's some great advice. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for joining us and sharing your wonderful insights. I'm sure our audience is going to have a great time listening and learn a lot from you. Don't forget to check out LIVEHAUS and also Impact Circle. But thank you so much, Saurabh.
Thank you so much for having me.
From your experience, when you've been there in person, what's a story that you've seen maybe from a brand, a person, a founder, or an event that completely shifted how they were viewed?
Right.
And professor at New York University.
Whose first-hand research on the brain is helping to improve memory, learning, and higher cognitive abilities in humans.
Guys,